country, for our future, for our children, for education, for men's rights, for women's rights. I mean, we live in a world that's completely upside down. You're talking about they can't even define what a woman is. I mean, I would not have believed 4 years ago we could even be having a conversation like this. But it's gone so far crazy. I'm waiting for the snapback, and the only thing that I see as a silver lining these days is that they have overplayed their hand, and everybody sees it now. We know that there is a uniparty, and I think, frankly, the best thing to happen in recent memory is RFK Jr., a blue blood Democrat, Kennedy, party leader, if you will, coming over and joining sides with we the people. And that's really what MAGA, that's what Trump represents. And now you've got them together and they're saying, you know what? This is nonsense. Let's just forget the whole thing. Because you know what it used to be when you and I were growing up, I don't know about you, but I would sit around the dinner table with my parents and my dad would talk about, those commie liberals, they want bigger government and more taxes. And we like smaller government and lower taxes. But that was the difference. Right. That was the difference between Republicans and Democrats back then. It was like they like unions, they like lobbies, they like whatever. They advocate for smoking here or not, silly small little things. I mean, my kingdom, go back to like 1993 when the president, the biggest scandal in the world was the president of the United States receiving some sort of extracurricular gratification from an intern of his. That to me, I wish for those days. the world was right. Those were good times. We had no idea what we had, but it was so good.
Well, we also had no idea that there were forces working behind the scenes to subvert our government. And, I was researching and reading something last night about how far back this poisoning of Americans has gone, from the creation of cancer, from the green monkey, that whole thing, MK Ultra. I mean, there's always been forces. Wherever there's been good, there's also been evil. And there's always been forces that were working for global dominance, that were working to eliminate the population, create money using pharmaceuticals. And I think that RFK brings a lot of that out. That's what he brings to the table, is that this is not just something that started with COVID. Our health is precious. When you lose your health, but it's a moneymaker. It's something that, just like wars are money makers for the right people that create them. So talk a little bit about this. I believe it's been a coup on the unsuspecting American people and the people around the world. I mean, look at Bill Gates and what he's been doing in third world nations for many, many years, using them as guinea pigs. And, we know about the MK.
Oh my gosh. Well, you know about this stuff. I mean, like the Gates organization they'd take a village in Africa and they would destroy the entire village. They literally would inoculate everybody and just be like, oh, wow, like 70% of people died there. So maybe we won't do that next time. Let's do let's see if we can get it up to 75%.
Mm-hmm. Or maybe now we know how to get rid of people. Now we know how to kill people.
That's right. So wait, you're complaining that not enough people got killed, Bill? Wait a second. Because I'm pretty sure I also saw a news clip of you talking to your wife where you talked about, they're not gonna laugh so hard when they have the next pandemic. We're really gonna make people sit up and pay attention then. So we are in a very, very, very dire place. And the biggest problem, and I love the truth matters. The fact that is the name of your show, the truth matters, because you know what? It is the only thing that matters these days, because we have been gaslit and lied to our entire lives. And so when you look at the child vaccine schedule that Reagan signed into law in, what was it, 85, and giving, liability protection to the pharmaceutical industry, I think that has been the single most devastating thing to the human race, specifically to the American human race, um, probably ever since, at least since the Civil War, and
I
probably,
agree.
yeah. So people always say, "Oh, so you're an anti-vaxxer." Well, first off, let's not call me names. I was a military guy for
Mhm.
25 years. I've been jabbed with everything there is under the sun, other than COVID.
Sick.
I'm sorry,
Yep. The sickest
than the
my
COVID.
son, my the sickest my son ever was when he went in to boot camp before he went into pre-buds and such for
Oh,
the
they
SEAL
load
teams.
you
But
up. Yeah,
oh my gosh, he was so sick because I stopped giving my son um, the child immunizations when he was just a
yeah.
toddler because his cousin had become permanently brain injured by the MMR vaccine. And I never gave my daughter not one inoculation. And people would say, yeah, but what about, I mean, even with COVID, remember they use this, well, you're not vaccinated. Well, yeah, well, if you've been vaccinated and you think it works, what difference does it make? You're protected. So don't worry about me,
Yeah,
what I'm doing, right?
exactly.
There was
If it
such a
works, why do I have to get it? If it doesn't work,
that's
why
right.
do I have to get it? So,
Yeah.
as an intelligence officer, I looked at that and I called BS on the COVID thing in January of 2020. As soon as it came out, I just
Yeah.
it just smelled like I could smell the sulfur from 1,000 miles away. I was like, this is the worst and also the best in information intelligence deception operation I have ever seen. It is not just national, it is international. And they duped the entire world. I had, hats off to them, frankly, for killing as many as they did and duping the entire world. But you know what? I thank God for God because vengeance is
Hmm.
His, and when that day
That's
comes,
right.
I, I mean, I'll be the first to push him into the lake of fire. In all honesty, anybody who comes
Well,
against
think.
the children, and that has to do with
Oh
the
yeah.
training population, it has to do with your Disney, your pedos, your Epstein folks, like
Mm,
anybody that touches a child. There is
yeah.
no, there is no, there is no acceptable crime. I'm sorry. There's no acceptable punishment for that crime other
That's
than
right.
death or
Hmm.
lifetime incarceration. It's
Yep.
just
You,
it is
you
not
know,
acceptable.
the
You
only
can't prey on the innocent in the weak.
well, the only saving grace, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. These innocent children, and and I always say it comes down to the selections. It comes down to the elections. That's what these people have perverted to get into office. Nobody
Right.
elected these people that are passing these laws. But my only the only saving grace for me during this whole pandemic, in analyzing it, was that those that were so hoodwinked, that believed the lie, were the ones actually dying. And I don't want it to go out there, well, Tina thinks, that it's okay that Democrats or all these other
No.
people died. No, that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying that it left us, the patriots, the people that are awake, eh, to actually not die. So the scheme that they had hoped would kill a third or two-thirds of the population, or whatever the number they're going for, has really left more of us than of them. And if
Yeah.
people don't start to realize this is not a Democrat and Republican situation, they want to kill us all and have their own
Yeah.
elitist
The
society.
pandemic of the vaccinated. I'm sorry. The
Right.
pandemic of the unvaccinated did not play out like in the winter of death and whatever that Biden wished upon us. Um,
Right.
it to me this is everything that is wrong with the American school system and American culture is the way
Hmm.
that these elites act now. I mean, I only refer to them as elites because that's kind of how everybody commonly refers to them. I think of them
Hmm.
as the opposite of anything elite. They're a bunch of grifting takers that that have no integrity and have a special place in hell reserved for them. So, and I really do think that we're in a time of spiritual sifting. So it's
Hmm.
people like
I
you
do
and I,
too.
we're having this conversation. I feel pretty confident that I'm going to see you up behind the pearly gates at some point. We haven't even talked about
Right.
religion or God. The only reason I'm
Hmm.
saying that is because you and I see the same things. And I do believe that we're in a time where those who have been given eyes to see do see.
Yes.
And that it is
Well,
an encoded matrix. It is an encrypted something somehow to where if I believe at this point that God Almighty has either chosen to give people the ability to see everything that's happening or not. And frankly, it is the
mhm.
people that don't see it that I am heartbroken for. And I mean, I find myself, it's funny, I'm a big, tough guy, been in a lot of wars. I was a special forces, operations guy and all this. I find myself just with the heaviest heart. And I mean, I'm full of gratitude all the time to God, but I'm heavy hearted for my fellow man. Um,
Yeah.
and I really truly want the best for people. The, it was the ones on the crazy lib side who were wishing us all death and you know and trolling us and making fun of us and canceling us and just on and on and on and as Christians, we just kind of rolled with it and took it in stride because hey, the same kind of thing happened to Jesus, and they even chose Barabbas over a man who never even sinned. And it really kind of makes you realize if that level of evil exists in modern America, then we have to be close to the time when the man himself is about to come back and say, hey, I thought I'd come check in on y'all, and it doesn't look like you're doing a very good job down here. So we're going to have to clean some house and get you back in order. I think that these are spiritual times. I think that anybody in your audience who's listening to this, who's on the fence, I think it's going to come quick. And I think if they don't repent and give themselves to God and surrender their lives to Jesus, that they're
Hmm.
I think their time is limited. I know that I'm a sinner. I'm not a perfect person. In fact, I'm one of the worst. I'm one of the worst that there is. I mean, I fought in 4 wars, and people say, "Oh, thank you for your service." No, 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 no. You have no idea what you're saying. You don't know what you're thinking
Hmm.
before, and you never
Hmm.
saw it. And let me tell you, I was part
That's
of a
right.
national task force responsible for killing or capturing the high value targets that America at the national level had deemed these are green light kill capture targets. They don't care
Yeah.
how those targets are brought in, so long as they are brought in one of two ways. And I
Hmm.
was one of those
Yeah.
guys. So when people say
Yeah.
thank you for your service, just like your son, you know what? It's like mm, you can say only so much, but
That's right.
let's take that all with a grain of
Well,
salt. It's just
I remember after my son died, and I went to because my son was involved in human anti-human trafficking in addition to being a Navy SEAL, and I remember going to one of the wealthy gentlemen who was going after help putting together Rangers and Navy SEALs to go after the. Uh, I've never really told this. I don't know how much I'm going to tell of it, but going after these human traffickers, and it was as you described. I mean, sometimes sometimes what you do in war and what you do to evil people, common people, normal people don't understand the brutality that has to take place to get the job done. Let me just put it that way.
yeah,
And
it's
and
always personal.
I think even in a spiritual, I mean, God wiped out the evil. I mean, he told the Israelites, kill them all, and he
Yeah,
told them, don't even save their jewelry, don't do that. And of course, every time they did
yeah,
stuff like that, they would be cursed because there's a cursing that comes with it. But you're right. I believe, in Thessalonians it talks about that day will not overtake us like a thief. We may not know the day and hour, but that day will not take us over like a thief. And we know that God is preparing us all for this. And also, we know that those that in Romans, where it says that those that chose to believe a lie, that they were given over to delusion, to believe things that were not true, and to lust one after another, men for men, women for women, and so on and so forth, things that weren't natural. So we know that the Bible has already, I mean, this is not something new. The Bible has already talked about this, has talked about how sacrifice of children and things like that. And so none of this is new under the sun. But I do believe what you're saying, Adam, is that we're at a point now where people are going to have to choose. And I call, good or evil. You're not going to stand on the fence on this one. This is it.
Yeah.
You're going to choose up
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
day you will
Exactly.
serve.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
It is as
with
clear as it can be. If you are
it is.
for the destruction of innocent life, if you are for, the enslavement of humanity, then you are not of God. It is that simple.
Right.
So choose, and choose wisely.
And I look at these. I look at